Hello everybody, CSW here, and today I am doing a video I have not done before, and that is making a tier list, specifically on Supreme Duelist Stickman, which, if you guys have seen my channel, obviously you know I play that from time to time for content, so anyways, today I'm going to basically rank these in order of how good or, good of a weapon it is, like in attack, blocking projectiles, recovering, getting I don't know, edge guards, sprint, stuff like that. So basically, like how easy it is to kill with it versus like how hard it is and how well rounded it is. So I guess first off, we could probably start off with something simple like the sword. Personally, gotta scroll. Personally, I think the sword is probably A tier. The reason I'm not putting it in S is because it literally just has like the one ability, and it's kind of hard to get in on certain projectile things or like get away from stuff like the ice cream and all that. So like it's good, but it is able to be just gimped off the ledge. But it's especially hard fighting Iron Hand, and it can still be like just killed by the cards. But all in all, it's a pretty good weapon. I think by the time this comes out, I should have done a 20-0 with the sword, which I'm surprised I didn't do first. But it's a good weapon. I think it gets pretty underrated, but its recovery is pretty good. I think the only recoveries that beat it are possibly the shuriken and cards. I think I'm missing a few. I know the bow is pretty good, but it's pretty good. It's definitely at least A tier. And attack wise, it's basic. You can usually kill people by ramming them into the ground or a wall or something. Just basically any easy kill. Next up, we have the staff, I guess. The staff is another good one. Also putting this in A tier because you can just instantly kill somebody if you use the ability the right way. You can also kind of recover. It's not the best, and it's kind of hit or miss. So that's definitely why it's lower than the sword. But its attack is pretty insane. Plus, it can block projectiles from both sides as opposed to just one. So, it's good in defense and attack. Recovery, not so much. Alright, now for, let's see, the pickaxe. Honestly, freaking S tier. The pickaxe is pretty good damage wise. It's basically like the sword, except it has a wider hitbox on the end. It's not as long. But its abilities, which are to place a block, TNT, or a piston, those are all just really good. The block you can obviously use to recover, and then the piston and the TNT are pretty good for getting your opponent off stage or just dealing damage in general. I think because of the block place, like you can just sit there on the block and then wait for your ability to recharge. Like you can just stand there over the water. It makes 20-0ing hard CPUs really, really easy. You can get thrown off stage with it and not recover if you get TNT or the piston instead, but otherwise it's pretty good. Definitely a low S tier at least. Next up is the harp. Now, I think I'm going to put this one in like the high B tier or maybe low A tier. Might change it later. For now, I'm going to put it in B tier. Its attacks are really good. You can actually combo all three of its attacks into each other. Like you can have two of the green ability flying around you at once. The red one has pretty good knockback, and the sleep note is just insanely useful. So, I guess for an explanation, whenever you use the pink sleep note, or purple, or whatever it is, with the harp, it basically puts you to sleep to where you cannot move, but you can use your ability. So, things like the sword and the staff are definitely good for getting out of the sleep note, but aside from that, it's pretty good attack-wise, but because it doesn't have any recovery, it's kind of keeping it out of A tier. So, I mean, you can save your jump, but it only does so much. Now for another weapon, the cards. Now, I like the cards, but I don't know if they're an S tier or an A tier. Like, I think they're good, but I don't think they're the best. You have the purple, which can teleport you. You have green, which basically just hooks them, kind of like the paintbrush. And then you have red, which is good. If you toss it up in the air and let it detonate, then it'll do a lot of damage like the bomb. But it's not insane, I guess. It's simple to use, pretty effective. I don't know. I guess low S tier, a little bit below the pickaxe. It's not as good for attacking hand to hand. You definitely want to keep your range. But that purple is definitely good for getting back on stage or swimming places. So now on to the shuriken. Honestly, I think worse than the cards in attack, but better in recovery. The shuriken has one of the craziest recoveries ever. So whenever you throw three of the shuriken, you get an ability which is basically turned into a fireball, and I think it lasts for about 5 seconds is when I counted it. And it makes you completely invincible. And if you hit an opponent, it makes them fly up. And then you can just combo them into the ceiling if you need to, get a kill like that. Or just recover from the bottom of the freaking stage. So, the recovery's insane. The shurikens don't explode on contact anymore. Like before, you could just break them. Now they actually stay there, so if you throw them up and then they land down, if your opponent doesn't like run away or something, the CPU, I guess, in the case so far, you can get a lot of damage, but I definitely think it's worse in the cards because it has less options. Next up, let's go for a controversial one, I guess. The boxing gloves. Now, I honestly don't think these are as bad as people say, and I'm going to put them in B. So, both of the abilities, whether people know this or not, actually affect the boxing glove's recovery, which is pretty good. If you have, with a single charge, whenever it's like doing the multi-hit punch, the gloves you can just jump higher, drift farther, so it is good to get across the stage faster or go over towards your opponent. And then, of course, there's the double charge, which is like the two big fists and actually lifts you into the air, or, I don't know, sideways. So I don't think they're actually that bad. They can also block projectiles if you use the quick ability, and just with their air momentum. They're definitely different. They're not easy to use, but they're not awful. I think in a fight, if the boxing gloves can get in, they would beat the harp, but harp just has the projectiles, and the boxing gloves, not so much. Moving on, let's do the scythe. Okay, I'm gonna have to put it in bottom A tier because I have been practicing with the scythe. The scythe is similar to the boomerang, which I will probably do next with its insane freaking knockback. But basically, what the new scythe does is it sends out a little soul that goes out and then back towards the player. So, kind of like the boomerang in that sense. It also does damage. It's not like a physical attack that you can hit, so it goes through walls and everything. And then you have the scythe, which actually has a pretty good reach, which I think is a little bit longer than the pickaxe. So it is good in a melee fight if you have to use it like that. And then if you can somehow manage it, there are ways to get the little soul attack thing from it to spin around you for a short time, which is really good for flicking away projectiles or just, attacking. It doesn't have any recovery, but I think its attack basically speaks for itself, so low A tier. Alright, next up, the boomerang. Since I said something about it, gotta put it in S tier. Its knockback is ridiculous. You can literally spam it up close and kill somebody if it hits right. It's pretty insane. It does, I don't know how much damage it does, but it's pretty average, and saying the boomerang basically just comes right back towards you after rebounding off of something. You can do a lot of crazy stuff with it. Its knockback, though, is the biggest part of it. It has knockback basically like the staff, which can just knock you completely to the other side of the stage from one side all the way to the other. Or spike you into like water or lava, something like that. You can also get somebody into a wall and then just spam it sideways repeatedly. It's kind of broken. It doesn't have any recovery, but I do think that its attack basically makes up for a little bit more than the scythe. Boomerang definitely beats the scythe because it's faster and doesn't have to wait on a cooldown. So there's another part of it. Alright, next up we're gonna do... let's do the portal gun. Oh boy. I'm gonna say B. maybe high C. I don't know. The portal gun is hard to use, but if you can manage to get it to where you can put your opponent into a loop, it is really good for getting damage in. Its recovery is also pretty crazy. So actually, it's probably high B tier because just for the fact that it can actually recover. Now, its damage with the portals is, I think, 1 to 2 damage as long as you stand in it or near it. So its damage is okay. It's not great in an enclosed space. You kind of want to cheese your opponent off the ledge by shooting one down, out, like off stage, and then one on stage in front of you. It's pretty creative. It's not great for melee. You can use it though. It's not recommended. It's kind of simple. Just use the portals. Try not to get hit. You can throw projectiles through it. I don't know. It's basically it for it. I do think it's B though. Alright, the ice cream. This one, right here. Actually, I think it's actually better than the sword. Now, the ice cream, all it does is it sends out a snowflake, which, if you get hit by it, does damage and it slows you. But when it lands on the ground, it makes a giant ice spike. Or an icicle, I guess. So the icicle, you can literally just impale people on, or you can jump off of it. So it actually has a recovery. I guess it's lower than the sword because it's not as constant of a recovery, and you do have to wait, I think, a few seconds longer if you're trying to recover from the water or lava. But it is pretty good. It is really good for damage because you can basically make an ice ball and then hit your opponent towards it, basically pinning them. And it's also good for getting out of situations because you can just shoot it down and then the ice spike will pop you up out of whatever attack that you're being hit by. Next one. Let's go bomb. The bomb can recover. It's not great, but its attack is just insane. The bombs, basically, normal ability, you throw the bombs, they explode on contact or after a bit. Now, the special ability makes a blue bomb, which detonates after, I believe, 3 to 5 seconds, which does a lot of damage and a lot of knockback. So that is good. You can actually almost recover, or at least clutch with that. The normal bomb, you can also do that, but it's not as great. It's kind of like the same thing with the sniper. So it's not great for recovery, but it does at least have the option to. Its attacks are kind of basic though, and you can pretty much just dodge them all the time, but if you get the hits, pretty easy kills. Next up, we're going to go with the Lollipop. Definitely a B. It used to have, I think, a longer dash when using the ability. Now it doesn't. It does have the projectile if you clank or like parry with another weapon, I guess. So it does shoot out the laser, which is pretty good for damage. It's kind of similar to the red of the hand cannon, which is pretty good. You can use it to recover. It's basically just a melee weapon. You can also fling your opponent if you can manage to hit their body, if not, the laser. So it is good, but I wouldn't say it's amazing. It's better than the boxing gloves. Sorry, you're a low tier. Alright, next one is the flail. I do actually think this is S tier. I don't know how high in S tier I'm willing to put this, but I do think it's S tier because its ability does allow you to swing and recover. You can also block projectiles with it. You can also just swing it around you, just go crazy. It's also fairly simple to use. You can also just let it hang off the edge, so if somebody is trying to recover, then they can't, and you can hit them into the abyss and they will die. So that's fun. It's also, I don't know, it is simple, it's effective, has recovery, and it does a lot of damage if you can manage to get your opponent onto the ground or onto a wall. Basically, most of these can do that, but honestly, personally, I put it up in S tier. Potion. I think this one is a low A tier. You can recover with the pink potion and the green potion, technically. It's kind of in the same spot as the bomb. I think it's a little bit better than the bomb, though. just by a little bit. It's basically good for attack with the green, but it's really slow, so you definitely want to knock someone off stage and deal damage with the pink. But it's pretty rounded. Its recoveries are okay. You also get made an even bigger target by using the pink potion a lot, but it's not that bad. All in all, low A tier. Not necessarily a B, because it can beat these usually, but... next up, the dagger. S tier. Do we even have to... Do we even have to say it's not? It has 2 dashes, which you can use for recovery, and... I don't know, it's just good in melee. Definitely better than the sword in recovery and attack. I don't think it's going any higher in S tier, it's probably just going to stay low. But that's fine, because S tier is still good. The grapple. You can just spam this thing, and it works. I don't think it's as good as the pickaxe, but it is pretty busted and it's really easy to use. You can also recover from any stage. If you use it right, the only cooldown it has is if it's retracting after you did not hit your opponent or the stage. So all in all, not a bad weapon. Stupid easy, kind of fun, not fun to play against. S tier, not better than the pickaxe. Next up is the axe. Now, this one does a lot of damage, and it can recover pretty high. For that, I'm going to put it over the sword. But, I don't know, you can also gimp it off the stage if you manage to hit your opponent while they're in the air using the ability. The knockback is pretty crazy, and it does some splash damage. It's fairly simple. You can also swing around the axe as a good melee. It blocks projectiles from the gun and stuff pretty well. Using it right, you can recover. It's kind of hard, but it's not bad. A tier. The spear next. The spear does not have recovery, but it does a pretty freaking good attack. Whenever I'm having to 20-0 CPUs for a video or something, I'm always scared of the spear. Partly because it does so much whenever it hits you, even with like its triple hit that's a single charge like the boxing gloves. And then the double hit is longer. So it has a lot of range. You can spin it around pretty well. It doesn't block things as well as the staff. But its damage is pretty crazy. It also slows you whenever you're using it in air, so you could clutch with it, it's just not as good. Next up, shield. I don't think it is C tier. I think it is actually B tier. Partly because it's a shield. It has a good recovery with green. You actually have to be really aggressive with the shield, which is kind of funny, instead of being defensive. The green can block projectiles. You can also float up with it. Its red ability is a projectile that does not want to be broken, I swear. Like, I've hit this thing so many times with like the sword and the axe, and it just keeps going. I don't know how much HP that projectile has, but it's just insane. You can also throw the shield, which does a lot of damage, and you can also hit your opponent on the way back off the stage, just like the scythe or the boomerang. And I think kind of the flail in that case. It is not insane, but it is pretty well-rounded. I think I'm actually going to put it a little bit over the potion, because it has a good recovery, but it's not too crazy. It's A tier. The lantern. Just gotta put this in B tier. I think it is good in attack, basically like the harp. You can kind of just cheese people off stage with the green ability, or with the pink ability if you can manage to trap them. The red ability you can actually recover with, so it is good in that regard, but it's mostly just attack and then hope you don't get hit off stage. So, B tier. Oh boy, the snowflake. I don't know whether to actually put this in C tier or not. It's good with the damage, it's pretty creative if you can hit walls and stuff with it. I think for now I'm going to keep it at a high C because the B tier is getting pretty full. The snowflake is hard to use. You can basically kill with it like the axe whenever it comes back down to the ground. Or just hit somebody off stage with the icicles. That's not bad. It's just, it doesn't go up high enough, it just drops straight down if you're off stage. So you want to be really careful to not use your ability when you are off stage with the snowflake, making it kind of hard to use. It is fun, it's not the greatest though, because you can just jump over and then hit the snowflake off stage. So, C tier. Next up, the boots. Recovery-wise, I think they're better than the grapple. And damage-wise, you can actually do some insane stuff with the boots. You can literally just walk on the water. I think Pickaxe is only better than it because it has more attacks and you can kind of trap people with the Pickaxe, as opposed to the boots just have to fly straight at you. And that leaves them open to cheese if you can just duck or hit them out of the way. So, amazing recovery, not the best attack, I guess. Lower than cards, better than shuriken. Okay, the flashlight. I think this is B tier. I don't know. I think it's better than the portal gun. I don't think it's A tier though. Its damage and its stunning is good. The red laser can push opponents back slightly, so it is good for making sure that they stay off stage. And there's just the stun. It's not amazing though. Like, you don't have any recovery, so I think it's not as good as the portal gun, but it is pretty good. Next up, the katana. I have played with this one, but not as much as I probably should, so I'm going to put it in low A tier for now. I could update this later. I think its attack is good, but I don't think it is the best. It has the dragon, which you can combo into, but it also doesn't have any recovery. You kind of move slightly faster in air, but you also drop faster if you're off stage using it in air. So it's not great for recovery, but it is pretty good if you can get the attacks down. Actually, it'd probably beat out the shield, but the shield can actually recover, so kind of mixed on this. The bazooka. I think this is pretty much A tier. High A tier, probably low S tier. You can recover with the bananas or trip somebody up. It's constantly firing like the gun. And it does a lot of damage. It is hard to avoid if your opponent keeps hitting every single shot, as it should be. Random. Yeah, we'll just we'll put random at C tier because you never know what you're gonna get. And worst case, it will be a C tier. Yes, I know this isn't technically like a weapon. There are people that could probably put it in S tier. I'm not the best at random, but random is just literally everything. The gun. You get C tier. The gun can attack, yes, but it does not have any recovery besides shooting the 3 bullets, and the single bullet, it is not the greatest. A lot of the weapons can block it and just hit it off stage and be done with it. So, C tier. Next up, the Gauntlet. It has some creative attacks for sure. I don't know how much more effective they are. I think it's definitely better than the flashlight, which I'm going to move then. So, yeah, flashlight is lower B tier. But, I don't know. The Gauntlet, it's kind of fun. You can usually avoid its attacks pretty well. If someone's trying to recover, you can either use the pink ability and hope something hits them coming from the sky, or you can use the blue, or the green, or even the red, I guess. The Gauntlet has a lot of abilities, honestly. The scariest one to deal with is probably pink and orange, because either of those, either a falling meteor or literally like the slow moving bullet, could just insta-kill you if you don't get away from it right after being hit. So, scary, but it doesn't really have any recovery thing, just more like a recovery hindrance, I guess. So, it's pretty good. Not the best. B tier. The paintbrush. Oh golly. I think I'm gonna put this in A tier. I don't know that I can put it in S tier yet because I've not practiced with it as much as I would like to, but the paintbrush is pretty good. You can recover with it 2 different ways, one by making the box or another by making a metal line, I think it is, by using it. So its recovery is pretty good. You can also have some pretty creative ways to cheese opponents by basically just grabbing them and swinging them off or killing them with a box, which doesn't do as much damage now, but I think especially definitely A tier. The crossbow. This one is annoying to deal with, so for that I'm going to put it at B tier. Its attacks are pretty good. The pink can basically make you completely invincible. which is what it's supposed to do, and then the red is really annoying to deal with if you are constantly being hit by arrows. So it's pretty good in attack, not really anything for recovery, but it is trouble if you do not handle it right. The blades. They're not awful, but they're not great either. I think they're definitely lower than the boxing gloves, surprisingly, because they don't really do anything to affect your recovery. Yeah, no, blades are C tier. I'm just gonna say it, blades are C tier. The gun is somehow worse than random, but we're just gonna go with it. The blades, you can throw them basically like the boomerang, they come back, just not as fast. You have the zap ability, which does reflect projectiles or stun your opponent while doing a lot of knockback, but they're just not that great if you just keep getting blocked. So, C tier. The magnet. I'm terrified of this thing. It is going up to mm, better than the axe, not as good as the bazooka. Not an insta-kill weapon by any means, but you can push people off stage with its pink ability, or kill someone instantly with red or green. It technically has a recovery ability with pink, so it has that. Its attack is just crazy, and I have mad respect for it because I don't want to die. Alright, the guitar. I'm actually currently trying to do a 20-0 with this, and it is kind of hard. I think it's better than the harp, the gauntlet, but I don't think it's any better than B tier because it doesn't have great attacks. You can use it as a melee, it's not that great. Its red ability pushes you off stage. Good. Green ability, it makes you float. Kind of bad because it makes you invulnerable and you can just get hit. Pink. The pink is for blocking projectiles, but it's just annoying if you have to use it just to get another useful ability. So it is good, but it's not that good. B tier. The arm cannon. We're just gonna put this in A. I don't know how much I. Okay, I'll say it's worse than the magnet, and the fact that it can't actually recover. Oh wait, no, it can. Yes, it can. Okay, no, it's high A tier. The arm cannon can basically insta-kill you with either green or the red ability, and then it has yellow, which can either hit you into the air or you can recover from the water. So that goes without saying as being super useful. It's also fairly easy to use. It has the simple gun mechanic as well as just broken abilities. A tier. Now the circular saw. I'm actually going to put this in low S tier because I think it is really good for damage and people don't really know how to deal with it all the time. Or at least like newer or average players that play it sometime and know some stuff. The saw can also recover. Using its ability, you actually fall slower and you can go through the air like side to side a bit better. It's basically like the gloves. But you can also climb on walls and insta-kill people by crawling along the ground and just hitting them and keeping them pinned on the floor. So it is scary. It's not as great of a recovery as the dagger. It's kind of in between, like with the paintbrush. But low S tier. I think it's a pretty good weapon. Now for the problems. The ones that have ridiculous attack, but no recovery. The laser sword and the dual saber. I'm putting them up there at S tier because their attack is just that crazy. They can just cheese you off stage with the force push, or the electricity can stun you and you just die from the damage, and it has a ridiculous range. Why can it reach so far? Now, I think the laser sword, it can instant kill you, but I think it's lower because it's pretty easy to use, but both of them don't have recovery. The laser sword is fairly good for blocking, but it is not as good as literally two lightsabers, which can switch from being held in both hands or having one giant one that spins around you, if you can spin it. So it's basically like the staff, except you have more powers than just having the staff ability. Stupid, crazy for attack, not great on recovery, but its offense goes without saying. Now for the battle axe. I think this one is also another one that could be pretty dangerous, but it's not as good. Its red ability is definitely scary because of the stun, Its green ability you can actually recover with, and then the pink you can hit people off stage, but it's just not great because of how much you can get gimped with it, I guess. Like once you throw the red ability, oh, you stunned them and now you can rush in, but it's not. It's got good abilities, but it's not anything too much to write home about. So it's A tier. I wouldn't say it's B tier. So it is low A tier, but it's not the best. It does have two recovery moves and pretty good attack. But it's just an all around okay. The hammer. This one is scary and it can recover better than the axe and sword sometimes. I don't know. The axe, the sword, and the hammer are three of them that I always want to just mash together because they're so similar. They can do crazy attack stuff and then crazy recovery. I think I'm actually going to put the hammer above the axe and then above the sword. So out of these three, the sword can recover the best, the axe can deal the most damage, but the hammer can do like both of those fairly well. You can also use a reverse tech, which I'll probably put in the iCard around now, I guess. The reverse tech with the hammer, you basically just hold it to the opposite side of you while walking another way. So it's kind of like a quick switch, and then you use the ability and it hits your opponent up, which is a lot better than down. You only want to spike people down if they are off stage. Otherwise, it's not great. Well, okay. Has great attack. You can pin people with the ability. You can also go recover with the ability, and it has the reverse tech. I think that's basically it. I kind of got on a rambling tangent. Sorry, but hammer A tier, pretty good weapon. Try it out. It's scary. The Scepter. All right, I'm gonna have to put it at S tier. Better than the shurikens. Better than the boots. Is it better than the cards? Yes. The Scepter is one that I used to think that I would main because it's pretty easy to use. Its red ability just knocks you back stupid far while dealing a pretty good amount of damage. The green platforms you can recover with, and the pink ability you can recover with. It literally has two recovery moves, but it kind of fails to kill opponents. So it's really good recovery, not great attack. So I guess that technically puts it above the shuriken, but it's a pretty good weapon. It is not bad at all. It is like the pickaxe if the pickaxe had a single attack that was good. But instead it is two. The sniper. This one I think is fun, and I think it is A tier. I don't know. I think it is better than the sword and the axe. Probably not the hammer, but the sniper is pretty good. You can actually recover with its super bullet. If you get a headshot, you can instantly reload and then just shoot them again in the head. It does a decent amount of damage. Its bullet recoveries, I already said that. It's kind of hard to recover with, but the projectile damage, I guess, goes without saying. So we'll put it down here. It can be blocked, but if you can get the hits in, it can also bounce off walls with the bullets. So that is pretty good. So you have multiple ways of hitting your opponent. Good damage, okay recovery, better than some of these, I guess, damage-wise. Personally, just gonna put it in A tier. Bow. I think this is a B tier weapon. High B tier, low A tier. Can't decide, but it's just a bow. You shoot arrows. The super, you can fly into the air with the arrows and just shoot a big flurry so you can kill somebody easily. It's like a better gun, kind of, except it has recovery, so it's up there. The lance. This one, technically you can recover with its ability, kind of, but it does scary damage. Just for scary damage, I'm going to put it right there above the ice cream. You can stun people with both of its moves, or just drive them into the ground mercilessly and murder them. So, for having scary amounts of damage, A tier. Finally, the Iron Hand. I think this one goes for high B tier. Personally, I think it is a fun weapon, not fun to play against, because the fire just keeps going. The pink ability with the bouncing bullet, kind of annoying to deal with, and then it has a good recovery. But past that, whenever your ability runs out, you're kind of just left there with a hand that you can swing in front of you and hope that your ability recharges. So it's not an A tier, definitely a B tier. It is very annoying to deal with. So that is it for this tier maker thing. I am surprised I did not put anything in D tier, actually. But I think I didn't put anything in D tier because all of these weapons are actually pretty well rounded. I do think that Neuron's brother, Zeke, you know him, I think they did really well with making the weapons pretty balanced. Obviously, there are some that are broken, like the grapple and the pickaxe, but even when I'm using a weapon like the gun or the snowflake, it doesn't seem impossible, it just seems really hard to win. I could also rate the stages, I guess. There are quite a few stages. So if you guys are curious for me to do a tier list on the stages, let me know. But other than that, this is my final tier. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, I will keep posting Smash Bros. And hopefully more 20-0s, possibly some weapon tutorials. I do want to start doing that and going more into depth in these weapons, or on these weapons, because this game is fun and not many people know that much about some of the weapons, like air mobility and just random things like that. So anyways, that's basically it for this video. If you liked it, you want to see more Supreme Duelist Stickman, subscribe, like the video, all that jazz. But anyways, I will see you guys later until I make another video. See ya.